2025 is the year where the unconscious meets the conscious in a cosmic dance of transformation. The Cancer full moon and the shift of the nodes into Pisces Virgo illuminate the balance between the warrior's fight and the protector's grace, helping us navigate a year of deep integration filled with stop and go energy. With back to back retrogrades of Mars and Venus, followed by outer planet retrogrades, this is a call to slow down, reflect inward, and experiment with what truly works for our collective future. Pluto in Aquarius reminds us that we're not meant to do it alone. Together we rise, uncovering the truth of our oneness and building future forward communities. The earliest lessons of the Pisces Virgo nodal axis teach us compassion and mercy as keys to healing the abandonment wounds of being human, bringing light to the unconscious and creating vision where all can thrive. This is a chance to shift from isolation to unity, from limitation to possibility. Together we rise as the tide of oneness lifts all ships. So join me in cracking the code of evolutionary guidance as we ride this wave of transformation, planting seeds of intention and aligning more deeply with the truth of our hearts and ultimately the love that unites all of humanity. Well, happy 2025, everyone. I hope everyone had a bit of a rest moving into January because this is going to be a very active and squirrely year energy-wise as we adapt to the Pluto and Aquarius era. Now, what I mean by that is 2025 has almost no pockets of clear direct energy. Normally, we get about a month or two of all planets direct with no retrogrades. But in 2025, during the period early in the year where we would normally have direct energy, we're experiencing back-to-back retrogrades of Mars and Venus. We are already deep in Mars retrograde, and there's only like a week or two before Venus goes backwards after that. Then by the time Venus is out of her post-retrograde shadow, we're already entering the outer planet retrograde cycles with Pluto, followed by the rest. While that's not abnormal for the outer planets, having Mars and Venus retrogrades back to back, and of course the Mercury cycle thrown in the mix, that will provide a year filled with stop and go action. Perhaps ushering in slower integration of pockets of inner work meant to acclimate us more towards the transformative properties of Pluto in Aquarius and the upcoming Uranus and Gemini transit. We also have a ton of shifts between Pisces and Aries for both personal and outer planets. And I think that's going to come with some wildness as we watch people dancing the line of spirit and incarnated human, all with the purpose of expanding our consciousness. It's a lot of experimentation energy and regrouping on what's working and what isn't so that we're building on experiential information rather than assumptions and limiting beliefs. I don't know about you, but in all of that madness, I'm really grateful for that. So now back to the present moment. In this episode, we're going to focus on the upcoming Cancer full moon on January 13th. But we're also going to take a look at the astro for the North Node at the draconic degree of 0 Aries right before the nodes shift into Pisces Virgo for the next 18 months. The charts themselves are fairly similar, but there is a key T-square between the moon and the nodes at 0.0 that we'll unpack a little bit. Otherwise, both charts feature that mystic rectangle we've been talking about for weeks, continuing the story of integration and the balancing of the nodal axis, which by the full moon will have shifted to 29 Pisces Virgo, as Mars retrograde now in Cancer opposes Pluto and helps us discern the vision that we want to create. Or maybe in a lot of ways, also what we specifically don't want to create. Now, what's super interesting about this full moon is that it's pretty much lined up with that Mars-Pluto opposition. So in addition to Mars in Cancer opposed Pluto Aquarius, we have the full moon also in Cancer opposed Sun, still in Capricorn, and loosely conjunct. If anything, this moon is definitely helping us usher in, and probably since it's a full moon, more so let go of and release, things not aligned with the vision of our hearts. But it also pulls in a lot of the healing potential. As I've been talking about for a few weeks, we also have the opposition of the full moon creating a T-square on the wounded healer Chiron, now direct in Aries, which I think is a foreshadowing of some of the energy we may encounter during eclipse season.
And furthermore, all this opposition is supported by trines in a cradle that incorporates the corner of the mystic rectangle with Neptune and the North Node nearing each other in Pisces, and also Uranus and Taurus.
So that is a lot of astro going on. And before I dive into the math of it, I wanted to talk about how this has manifested in my life for the last few weeks. What I'm noticing is as we learn how to align with our hearts so that we can become evolved, protective leaders for each other, lessons we're learning with the Aries energy and Mars and Leo transits, we are also in a deep process of shedding limiting beliefs. This is probably a reflection of the Jupiter-Mercury mutual reception process that's finally broken up. But man, it can feel a bit frustrating. As aware as I like to think that I am, my life is still run by beliefs and unconscious patterns that limit the experience of my own empowerment to create the life that I'm deeply in love with. And it's really vulnerable and difficult to say and acknowledge that. So as we go through these intense transits and crack the codes these charts have to offer us, I urge you to gently, because, Cancer vibes, be willing to open your minds and hearts to your own limiting beliefs in a curious and self-compassionate way. And we'll talk about this more in a little bit, but the moon is Cancer opposed Sun in Capricorn. So commitment to vulnerability here is the way forward. Remember, you've always got yourself. It's safe to look at anything holding you back from your power and from the lives that we're all meant to live together, both individually and collectively.
So before I dive into the full moon energy, I wanted to acknowledge and look at this January 11th chart of the draconic moment in time. Technically, we've been at the energy of North Node 0 Aries for a few weeks. But I think it's really interesting that in this last moment before shifting from Aries Libra to Pisces Virgo, the nodal opposition is creating a T-square with the moon at 26 Gemini. So the cliff notes of these nodes, the Aries Libra themes, are around reaching for empowerment and brave protection, being fueled by feminine ideals of peace, harmony, balance, and flow, and utilizing the information from our intuitions as a truth source. To receive and discern our intuition and embrace our empowerment, it's imperative that we let go of rooted patterns of people pleasing and codependency. That's how we actively embrace the empowerment that comes with being truly, authentically led by love. So, in the final moments of that energy, the push pull is putting pressure on Moon at 26 Gemini. The moon represents feelings, emotions, and intuition. 26 degrees is Saturn ruled accountability, leadership, and mature commitments. Gemini is the thinker and the power of information, understanding, and communication. It's youthfully curious about everything, and its mutable energy is capable of exploring all the different sides of things. So, as the nodes move into their Pisces and Virgo for the next 18 months, I think the moon is sending us a specific message to stay committed and accountable to where we receive information from, how we use it, and how we talk to each other. Because there's emotional depth and implication to all of it, especially in regard to communication between our masculine and feminine, which we'll dig into in a few minutes. Basically, we're being tasked to stay open minded to all sides of the story for multiple reasons. First, by exploring information, we are allowing our beliefs to be more malleable and transformed to support the new realities that we wish to create. It also gives us more perspective for love, compassion, and empathy. Equality is a huge part of Libra energy, and I think the South Node shifting out of Libra wants to leave us with a reminder to let go of anything that blocks us from equity and love for all beings, even if we don't understand or agree with the information or the ideals of others. There's a lesson here in letting go of patterns around codependency, martyrdom, and self abandonment that are necessary for us to embrace the empowerment opportunities that were offered in Aries. With the nodes shifting into another mutable sign of Pisces, the new lessons are around our willingness to embrace spirituality, compassion, and healing. Information from sources we can't see. So we're about to get very curious about our beliefs and how they vibrationally limit or expand our realities.
And now, even through the nodal shifts happening on 111, which by the way is a pretty cool date for this if you're into synchronistic numeric patterns, the story of this nodal axis far from ends here. If anything, I like to think the experience of the nodes works to impart guidance and direction, but now we actually have to live through those lessons, making different choices and doing the work, which is where the real transformation from information to wisdom to action really takes place. And I've been pondering this for a while now in terms of my own limiting beliefs around the idea that things are arduous and hard and take a long time to manifest. It makes me wonder how an intention and seed planted into the quantum field through our heart space manifests into our real lived reality. And I think the truth is that that is not a passive process. We don't manifest by thinking or feeling directly. Well, I mean, some people might have that power because we're all acting on a variety of conscious and unconscious energies, figuring things out at different parts of the consciousness and field through our own experiences. But anyway, what I'm learning here as a Gemini with a Libra stellium, natal south node and draconic sun in Aquarius, is that our world is created through the projection of our beliefs. When we feel limited, well, that's what the world will show us. It can be an active shift to plant seeds in the fabric of reality from the truth of your heart rather than the automated experience of what keeps us safe in our ego and nervous systems. And while that doesn't mean it needs to take a long time, it does help to acknowledge a seed as an intention and then water it with wisdom and ultimately take actions to promote its growth. Then all of a sudden, we will find ourselves in the exact world that we were wishing to create. Now, as a supplement to this episode and the internal process that I think will assist a lot of us through the shifts of 2025 and beyond, I've created a new meditation to help connect and plant quantum seeds of intention through the depths of our heart space. To access that meditation, jam that subscribe button below, and I'll make sure to also add the link to the description below as well.
And remember, although I'm reading the math of the collective astrology, the true purpose isn't to dissect the chart. It's really to connect deeper with ourselves and learn more about this reality and ultimately expand our consciousness and tear down the walls that exist between us. The goal is unity, and we get there through being real to ourselves about all of life's multidimensional dynamics: physical, emotional, ethereal. They are all part of the equation that we call life. And that's why I love reading charts for others. If I can help validate a feeling or spark a new idea or break down a limiting belief through utilizing the guidance provided in the charts, then I am truly serving others to my highest ability in the present moment. So don't be shy. Subscribe, follow, DM, plant a seed of commitment to yourself and to your heart in the quantum field, and then take the action of getting in touch so we can unpack your chart, path, lessons, and guidance together. These tools are readily available, and you don't have to go at it alone. We are all in this together, and it's an honor for me to support your conscious growth and awakening.
Now, as a lead into the full moon chart, there is one last concept that I want us to ponder in regards to the lessons of the Aries Libra nodal axis. Because remember, the story isn't just over because we shift into Pisces Virgo. Energy doesn't end with an astrological transit, but rather it's a never-ending story of lessons building upon each other as stepping stones in our conscious evolutionary process. So what I'm finding that's coming up at this cusp right now is really highlighting the wounding between masculine and feminine energy that's ripe for reparation and sacred union. And I think this is foreshadowing to the more volatile themes that are going to present themselves as we see so much action this year with an eclipse in Aries, and both Neptune and Saturn ingresses there too. Both of those outer planets will dance on the Aries-Pisces line all year long in direct and retrograde transits. And it will continue to highlight the disconnection and miscommunication in relation to the way masculine and feminine energies interact with each other. The masculine intrinsically seeking emotional space and nurturing in the feminine, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what he's currently learning as he retrogrades in Cancer is that he gets to find what he seeks by courageously connecting with his own vulnerable ability that lives within the parts of himself that feel weakest. The masculine needs to learn how to offer self-care and compassion first to himself before seeking it out from the feminine. But why?
Because when masculine energy unconsciously seeks that from femininity, two things happen. First, in the darkness of his unconsciousness, the feminine can see his innermost wounds, but because he can't, she will overcompensate for that, causing the masculine to become overly comfortable where his motivation to take action declines rapidly. I think we can see that a lot in masculinity right now. Men are seeking so much emotional shelter from women. Rather than honoring that, it's become not only an expectation, but it's replaced the masculine need to do the work for themselves. Now, for the feminine, this has a twofold result. First, South Node Libra, imbalance, martyrdom, codependence, giving away themselves to hold space, thus amplifying the masculine's comfort at her own expense. What we end up with is coddled, weak men. Not weak as fighters or physical strength, but rather weak in their ability to face what needs to be faced within themselves in order to never get so comfortable that they go unconscious to their role in creating balanced structure and protection for all. Hence the strong vibe of emotional unavailability between masculine and feminine right now. Furthermore, that weakness devolves relationships because the masculine is not taking action of a protector. He's not putting effort into protecting the feminine from his wounding patterns. Rather, there's an unspoken expectation that the feminine keeps him just comfortable enough that he doesn't have to face himself. So now we have a feminine that feels depleted, unprotected, and disconnected from her inherent magic because she's so focused on maintaining his emotional wellness because it's a grasp at her safety. And then we have a masculine that feels unmotivated to create the structure required to protect them both.
And now remember, this isn't just biological men and women, this is energy. This tug of war is going on first inside of all of us between our own masculine and feminine energies and then projecting outward to create the world that we live in. Ultimately, women aren't here to make men feel comfortable. We are here as the sacred bridge of connection between spirit and incarnated human, a dance that becomes more highlighted as we go through the Aries Pisces line this year. I mean, really, the process of going from spirit to incarnated human, that process only happens through a woman's physical body. And furthermore, the process can only happen in darkness. Pluto and Scorpio vibes. In order to bring a human into light, to birth something, the seeds are planted, nurtured, and incubated in watery darkness for months. Feminine energy intrinsically has the ability to bring out the emotional darkness in masculine energy, and in all creatures. But again, Pluto vibes. It's not to break us, it's to free us and align us with the goals of peace, harmony, balance, and universal pulse and flow. It's to help us see that remaining unconscious causes harm and destruction, masculine Mars Aries energy. Part of the work of the age of Aquarius is the continued evolution of Mars masculine energy into conscious leaders, and the reparation of the masculine feminine balance is critical to our future forward vision. That is the duality that it will take to bring back unity consciousness as the overall vision for humanity. We cannot have it without masculine and feminine balance, and there's no other way but to do it together. It's the literal definition of unity.
Now, how this all works into the full moon in Cancer. Lots going on to pick apart here. We have the moon at 24 Cancer conjunct Mars retrograde at 27 Cancer. This is interesting in itself because the feminine moon is at the Venus degree and Mars itself is at the Mars degree. In Cancer, the sign of nurturing feminine mother energy. But of course, since it's a full moon, it's opposed to the sun, which is also at 24, but in the Saturn ruled sign of Capricorn. And because Mars is conjunct the moon, we pull Pluto 1 Aquarius into the mix as well. So the implications and things we commit to releasing with this moon are far reaching towards the decisions we make for ourselves, which ultimately feeds the greater vision we have for the future of humanity at large. So looking at the moon and Mars retrograde conjunction, we're in Cancer energy. The ruler and home of the masculine warrior energy doing inner work around how to caretake, nurture, and support himself so that he can lead in a more harmonious and protective way. Mother energy. Hence the evolution of the lessons of the nodes that we spoke about a few moments ago. While the softer representation of the feminine in the moon at the third decan of Venus degree, rather than Venus being there herself, the feminine is in co support of emotional nurturing through the release of patterns that don't ultimately result in balance.
Now, I don't love saying this, but there's some vibes that the moon might pack an emotional punch in terms of sadness. As I alluded to earlier, I myself have been going through it in terms of releasing limiting beliefs. Shedding the old stories of how we wanted things to be, facing that can really feel difficult because it makes us look at all the ways that we've self abandoned and stories we told ourselves and sold ourselves to keep us in misaligned relationships and situations. Now, we didn't do that because we wanted to. It felt like we were doing it out of love, but in a lot of cases, we chose to stay in misalignment due to lack of belief and trust in the possibility of the unknown. We kind of do it as an automation of our egos and nervous systems that want to attract and live in known patterns because that's kept us alive so far. But we're not here to just be alive, we want to thrive. And because there's a T squared to Chiron at play here too, which we'll dig into more shortly, There's karmic and ancestral and trauma patterns at play here too. And remember, as sad as it can feel to leave old stories behind and as scary as it may be to embrace an unknown future, the release here is far reaching. It's making way for new experiences that are meant to really upgrade and improve our lives both individually and collectively. Like purging your home, which conveniently also falls neatly into this Cancer Capricorn axis. When we let go, we create space for new. Holding on to outdated stories and things that don't align with our hearts is not empowering, self loving, or nurturing. It's survival patterning, which had a place when we were being chased by wild animals, but now we are evolved. And right in time with this nodal shift, the moon is helping us let go as the brave action of self care that has deeper implications of transforming our identities.
Now, although we've been preparing and working on this for quite a while, the thing that can make this so particularly scary and sad in our feels is that our vision for where we are transforming is still too hazy. It's actually a really beautiful ushering in of the North Node Pisces, where we'll spend 18 months relearning how to reach beyond what we can see, through utilizing lots of compassion and empathy and a desire to see ourselves and the world heal from all of the abandonment and codependency and closing of our eyes to what we didn't want to see. So, this chart is helping us stay accountable to the ideals of Venus's quest for justice, harmony, peace, and unity through that opposition with Sun 24 Capricorn. It's like a half a degree out of being conjunct to Pluto at 1 Aquarius, but it doesn't really matter because the opposition's T square and cradle entangle it all in support of moving us forward. And because it's at 1 degree, the current approach to the collective transformation comes directly through transforming ourselves, our identity, and our beliefs first, challenging what limits the expression of our realities. So now all of that is putting pressure on Chiron at 19 Aries. I feel like this placement is like healing incarnate. It's the act of embodying the frequency of the wounded healer. Chiron energy spent a lot of time replaying different versions of past traumas and woundings throughout our soul's history for the purpose of seeing things differently, learning, and making different choices. Because we all have collective Chiron and personal natal Chiron placements, we all have the capability to choose healing. We all have patterns to let go of. We are all tasked with becoming the wounded healers within our own experience so that we can ultimately share that information, compassion, and understanding back to the collective field. My pain can help you with your pain. The story of how I healed can help you heal. That's why we're never all at the same place in life. Rather, we're all learning and experiencing different dynamics in order to piece together the puzzle of our healing back to oneness. There is empowered compassion in that. Since Mars rules Aries, the collective goal for Chiron here in Aries is the more individuated version of what Mars retrograde is working on. It's being empowered by how compassion, nurturing, caring, and protective we can be on behalf of each other.
Now, don't get it twisted. Protective here does not mean to hide away. It does not mean avoiding triggers or avoiding confronting tension in situations that hurt. Because it's Aries, it's literally about the bravery and the courage to face ourselves in the way that we've hurt and abandoned each other. As we expand into a very active year of Aries Pisces transition energy, we're going to be challenged a lot on the choices we make as we collectively dance on the line of spirituality and incarnated humanity. It's truly an exotic dance of illuminating unconsciousness and bringing it into awareness. So I think we're being primed and foreshadowing an extremely active Aries season so that we can navigate and discern those energies, powered by healing, compassion, empathy, and with the release point in Libra, of course, the feminine vibes of reaching for peace and harmony, not through bypassing tension, but rather moving through it. Because Mars, as the malefic and the ultimate ruler of Aries, will undoubtedly provide many opportunities for fire during these transits. Which, of course, brings up the age old question, why? Well, because we want to fuel the vision of Pluto with an upgrade for the quality of life for all of the collective humanity. That's why.
And the math of this chart maths with that too. Because supporting those oppositions in the cradle formation are Uranus, still retrograde at 23 Taurus, and Neptune 27 Pisces conjunct North Node 29 Pisces. Uranus is the planet of transformation, and because it's been in retrograde, the transformation is happening from the inside out. Uranus is about shock and awe and showing you things you didn't see before through unexpected, unforeseen circumstances. The purpose of Uranus' unpredictability here is to shake us out of the patterns and show us where we've been hijacked by society, structure, or hiding from ourselves and self abandoning through avoidance. It's at the Mercury degree here, so it's feeding us this inner transformative information that we are meant to transcend in order to increase our quality of life. It's got huge implications of healing ourselves so we can heal each other and indulge in the beauty of Earth for the short time that we're here. In direct support of this full moon, conjunct Mars retrograde, the work of the Cancer Capricorn opposition, the person we are committed to becoming to ultimately feed the vision of Pluto in Aquarius. And on the other side of the cradle, we're packed in Pisces with Neptune and North Node. Neptune at 27 is about taking compassionate healing action, especially when it feels emotional. I don't mean to pass over Neptune lightly here, but it moves slow, and we've gone over Neptune in the late degrees of Pisces almost every episode. However, where the guidance deepens further here is the conjunction to North Node, now also in Pisces at the 29th degree. Coming out of the Draconic degree, the North Node moves into the final degree of the zodiac, which is 29 Pisces. It's the testing degree of many lessons, but particularly highlighting those around connection to the ethereal, metaphysical world. There's a trust in the flow of the higher order of things, the flip side of that 0 degrees Aries. There's a vibe here of humbleness around all that we don't know and can't see and can't control, and a surrendering to the wonder and opportunity that exists within that. I view this position as reaching for spirituality and healing. Entangle that with Neptune at a Mars degree and support trine and cradle to Mars retrograde conjunct a full moon. And I think that offers some comfort to the emotional waters that might produce some high tides in the waves of Cancer.
Now, I know that's a little murky because Pisces is also emotional water energy, but I think the difference here is that those Cancer placements and opposition aspects and retrogrades are having emotions stirred up, while the North Node and Neptune in a trine and cradle provide support through surrendered trust, action aligned with the ideals of compassion and mercy. So essentially, applying a healing balm of greater purpose to all of these energy forces at play.
Now, because the nodes have shifted to Pisces Virgo, it adds a new dynamic to the mystic rectangle that's been holding for a bit. I myself have already started having physical symptoms in the body of detox and cleansing to make room for this energy. South Node Virgo at 29 degrees. If you're experiencing that too, first off, sorry to hear because it's rather unpleasant, even if it's just temporary. But definitely let me know in the comments so we can compare notes. Anyway, in South Node Libra, the fuel for empowerment dynamics were lessons on leading from feminine justice, peace, and harmony. Now we are using those lessons to shift into the dynamic of Pisces, spirituality, and surrendered trust in the greater force of life. But doing that through the utilizing of the wisdom and problem solving capabilities of South Node Virgo. Problem solving through presence and incarnated human within the physical body itself. Because it's South Node, there's lessons to be had in letting go of control, especially around having to be right or having to have all the answers, without having the unknown trigger a series of anxieties. I think that's specifically how we get out of the survival patterns and into balance with possibility. So, really, the perfect balm for that is found in Pisces, especially with Neptune involvement kicking off this transit. It's actually really sweet and beautiful and supportive.
So we've spent a bulk of this episode already navigating the other oppositions in this mystic rectangle, which remains Mars opposed Pluto, but pulling in the full moon and sun influences as well. In personifying it, generally that opposition gives vibes of Pluto being like, hey, masculine, you're gonna need to get your shit together if we're gonna do this right next time around. And by the way, that's not a request. Meanwhile, Mars be like, wow, well, there's a lot I've been avoiding facing. Yikes. Someone hold me. Where's my girl so I can be comforted through this? But the trick is the person holding space for you here is you. So if you're feeling bits and pieces of those vibes, know that it's right on time. Facing ourselves is no easy task. Becoming conscious of and transcending limiting beliefs that have kept us enslaved and controllable to powers outside of ourselves is really hard to face. For many out there, it's still really hard to acknowledge any of this is even going on. And that's why we see such divide and power struggles right now. The old ideologies are dying a slow and painful death, where those who want to believe in them are grasping hard and acting erratically because they feel like their safety is at risk otherwise. And even if you don't agree with their beliefs, I think a lot of us can empathize with that. Transformation can be difficult, And that's why this rectangle is holding through the shift of the nodes and Mars retrograde. Because in order to integrate the necessary lessons and healing into usable wisdom and feeling safe enough to take empowered action around that, the compassion, nurturing, and self care healing energies of Cancer and Pisces are required in order to pull us through. We can't do this without compassion.
Because this mystic rectangle doesn't stand alone. It features an additional trine, one that forms half of the cradle. This trine, often called an envelope or I call it a house, points to Uranus and Taurus. So all of the information, lessons, learning, knowledge, and wisdom provided by this rectangle are in support of the greater quality of life that we're looking to create, which then re-triggers the trines of Pluto and the cradle. All of these aspects and placements feed each other. There is a larger story for humanity at play here.
Now, for me, that's looked a lot like revisiting my limiting beliefs around money, heart, and the way that my own inner masculine has sought comfort over commitment and driving excellence from ego rather than heart. And I don't love admitting that at all. As a Gemini sun, most of my life lessons result in transformation of my identity that are explorations of duality. For a long time, I lived my life with the ideology I had two choices: money or love, and that they were not the same energy. Now, I've done a lot of work around this over time, but healing is like peeling an onion. Just when you think you're done, another layer shows up that makes you cry. So, as I'm working with my own teams of healers and coaches, I found myself yet again making a statement that aligns with the belief that if I make choices in pursuit of money, I have to leave my heart behind. As if that's really a choice, as if anyone could ever truly leave their hearts behind. We wouldn't be alive without our hearts. So now for me, the work begins again in actively healing that pattern of belief. Because the future of Pluto and Aquarius lies in alignment with the truth of our hearts. And no shade on me here, I have much self-compassion because it took a lifetime thus far to even be real with myself about my heart. And it's a constant recommitment every single day to remember and ask myself questions and stay conscious of the intentions behind my actions. And listen, aside from surviving in current world structure, managing my own consciousness sometimes feels like a full-time job in itself. So anyway, it's right on time that I'm hitting a deeper layer of belief on this topic. I think as a human, healing is about constantly reinventing ourselves. And maybe that's what the earliest lessons of Pisces Virgo are here to help with. Because even when we face a new level of a pattern that we thought we let go of, we're different people with different tools every single time. And maybe that's what the activity of becoming and embodying the wounded healer Chiron is really all about. It happens through first living it ourselves and using the tools and amassing a team of people also doing the same work on themselves. And the Aquarian act of sharing and comparing notes and techniques with each other. Because one lesson Pluto in Aquarius is definitely going to be teaching us is that we cannot do it alone, nor would we want to. Again, continuation of the nodal reparation of masculine and feminine. All of this work that we are doing can feel really lonely and isolating sometimes, but it's not for naught. A rising tide lifts all ships, and our consciousness is the rising tide. Together, as we unveil the truth of our existence and how we energetically are always connected to each other through an unseen oneness, we learn how we truly are all the same. And that's literally the key to equality and unity. If we are truly all the same, made from the same energy, the same fabric, we all come from the same star. How could it ever be ethical or heart-led to suppress each other or hold each other down? Here, the earliest lessons of the Pisces Virgo nodes are in support of Pluto and Aquarius, reminding us that the future forward vision for humanity is with community itself. We are all active participants, so compassion and mercy applies collectively to every single one of us. And I don't know about you, but I definitely want to let it flow, 'cause it won't stop.
Thank you so much for joining me on Crack the Code and trusting my guidance. It is part of the mission of my North Node to follow my bliss as a heart-led leader and be of service to others through channeling the guidance of the charts as we walk through this expanse of space and time. I have some big visions to bring to life in 2025 and beyond. Subscribe to my channel here on YouTube or follow me on Instagram at SarahLynnBliss to be the first to find out about new offerings. To book one-on-one readings, written or video chart analysis, comment on either channel or send a DM to get in touch. I'm so grateful for your support and presence, and I can't wait to connect further and crack the code on the guidance of your own chart. Listen to your heart, follow your bliss, and let it flow, because it won't stop.